What a ridiculous thumbnail statement, right? I mean, how could the LS500 be the best luxury flagship in any way? I mean, it's compromised in a number of ways, and I'm not exactly going to shy away from those flaws in this review. But if you stick around to the end of this video,
skip to the end,
and maintain a healthy sense of sort of practicality and, well, let's just say a little bit of financial conservatism, then you just might see how this Lexus LS500 all-wheel drive makes sense in the luxury flagship segment. What's going on, everyone? Jax here, and today I have the 2021 Lexus LS500 all-wheel drive. As usual, let's start with the styling, since it's the most subjective category. I'm going to break this part of the video into two sections, the exterior styling and the sort of interior styling. Personally, I've always liked the way the LS500 looks from the outside. The Lexus design language looks great when it's sort of stretched out in this kind of long and low format. And I think it works better here than on any other Lexus product, save the LC500. The LS500 looks great here, and it has, I think, a kind of more elegant sense of style than the sort of blockier and chunkier BMW 7 Series or the kind of conservatively styled Mercedes S-Class. Can you set your personal biases aside and admit that the Lexus spindle grille looks better here on the LS500 than Audi's current version of their grille on the Audi A8?
nah.
Well, it does, so there. I think that's everyone, right? We covered all the other luxury cars. What about the Acura Rli? Inside the LS500, things are even better from a design perspective. If you opt for the luxury package, which this car has, you get leather and Alcantara or fake suede or whatever you want to call it everywhere, as well as sweeping sort of metallic details and decadent wood trim. The seats in the door cards look particularly good, with an undeniably luxurious sort of blend of shapes and materials that are absolutely befitting this car's $100,000 price tag. You can even opt for Corico glass on the upper level trims instead of the wood. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it looks really cool. And everything from the door handles to the shifter to the sort of like fake floating armrests. I mean, they are not actually floating. They've got like a little support behind them, but they look like they're kind of floating there. It all feels really like upscale and cool. It's a gorgeous interior, and it's perfect evidence that Lexus can not only compete with, but sometimes exceed its competition at this price point. This LS500 is powered by a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, making 416 horsepower and 442 pound-feet of torque, running through a 10-speed automatic transmission and being distributed out to the all-wheel drive system. This allows the LS500 to hit 0 to 60 in a claimed 4.6 seconds, which seems a little ambitious, but let's say under 5 seconds. What about the gas mileage?
I don't care!
Well, it's 17 miles per gallon in the city and up to 27 miles per gallon on the highway. So, I mean, that's not bad for a car that's roughly the size of Delaware.
I'm kind of a big deal.
While some buyers in this segment might complain that there are more powerful options, specifically ones that have 8 cylinders, I'm not entirely sure that that's a valid reason to complain. More power in a vehicle of this size, it becomes almost utterly pointless. When you have 442 pound-feet of torque, how much more do you really want? And that turbocharged engine has no trouble sort of wafting the LS500 up to speed. The 10-speed automatic handles its operations nearly seamlessly, and the ride quality varies between sort of ocean liner floaty and more buttoned-down kind of Germanic feeling semi-sportiness. For more on the driving characteristics, check out my dedicated sort of ride and handling video on how the LS500 performs in sort of day-to-day driving. Link in the description, of course. Let's start here, because this is a big executive sedan. So let's start in the rear seats, where rear seat passengers get their own climate control zones, all sort of managed by the 7-inch touchscreen, which controls the functionality of the climate control as well as the seats, which can power back and slide forward, and they've got all kinds of adjustments. They also allow the rear seat passengers to move the front passenger seat remotely, so if nobody's sitting there, the rear seat passenger, especially the one sitting where I am, can kind of move that seat out of the way for more space. They have power rear sunshades, which can also be controlled from the front driver's seat, which is kind of cool. And quilted semi-aniline, whatever that is, leather on the seats and the armrests and the center kind of armrest here with the multi-function display. It's an extremely nice place to be, with kind of one catch. It's a bit tight. I'm freakishly tall at 6'6", but in a car this size, I feel like I should be able to sit behind myself. Ella, who is 6'1", and one of her tallish friends, who's like 5'9", 5'10", were in the back the other day, and they didn't really have any space to spare. But for normal-sized individuals, the LS is more or less on par with the German competition, as well as the Acura Rli. But if the rear seats are good, the front seats are definitely better. Quite literally everything your hand touches is wrapped in leather, high quality leather, or it's metal, or it's extremely high quality plastic. And this covers everything from the dash down the door cards and even low on the center console. The headliner is ultra suede, which even extends to the sun visors, which feel fantastic. And the leather on the center console and the armrests and the seats feels glove-like. I mean, it's just sumptuous to the touch. The steering wheel, the dash, and the upper door cards are beautifully crafted, and they feel as good or better than anything else in the cabin. I personally love the sort of door handles, which are very much like those in the LC500, which has some of the coolest door handles on the market. And I like the way that the leather and then the wood and then the Alcantara, it like kind of layers back like that with the sweeping lines. It just looks phenomenal in here. And the panoramic sunroof, well, it's kind of panoramic. You have a sunroof over the front and the rear. It lets in a lot of light and helps this cabin feel both kind of like a cockpit, but also bright and airy. It also reflects off the just awesome metal brightwork and these really thin, sort of elegant, delicate lines that go around the dash and kind of sweep up and across and incorporate the vents. It's just really cool. Only the LC500 has a cabin this unique, and it really reflects Lexus's attention to detail and craftsmanship and the build quality with which it's all assembled. But there is a catch. While I would argue that the LC500 is generally as luxurious as any of its German competition, the technology lags behind, if not just in execution, but also in perception. Here's what I mean. The Germans often throw in sort of cutting-edge technology that isn't always necessary. You know, like gesture controls.
Stupid.
With the sole intention of appearing more sort of innovative and technologically advanced than the next guy, despite the fact that Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid all seem to be doing it better. What's that?
You shut your damn trash mouth.
Lexus doesn't go this route, instead choosing to fill the LS's interior with sort of practical, luxurious touches, such as auto-extending seatbelts, soft closed doors, and a very useful and legible heads-up display. But the 12.3-inch infotainment display, now with sort of redundant touch functionality, which is nice instead of just using the trackpad, which is a welcome improvement, and joining CarPlay and Android Auto is now Amazon Alexa compatibility, but it offers nothing that can't be found on lower-end Lexus models and even some higher-end Toyota models. The head-up display is clear and informative, but it's kind of pedestrian in its execution. It's sort of like Wolf Blitzer.
It's an awful situation.
And there's a CD player, a CD player. Lexus, you can't appear to be cutting edge in any way when you're fitting options to your car that are the automotive equivalent of the phrase, "Okay, boomer."
Okay, boomer.
The worst perception killer, though, is the gauge cluster. It's far too simplistic in its sort of design, and it doesn't really seem to use the available space behind the steering wheel. It doesn't really live up to a vehicle in this price range, with graphics that aren't really crisp enough. They don't appear to be super high def, and animations that can at times be clunky. It's like walking into your rich friend's bedroom growing up, and then him asking if you'd like to play Atari when you've got Fortnite on your damn phone.
Great Scott.
So wait, after all that, how is this the best luxury flagship if? What's the if? If what? Well, the LS500 might be the best luxury barge.
Take it to see Mr. Murdoch.
If you'd like to actually own one, like you're a normal person who would like to actually own one, and you might consider picking up a used one and enjoying all that it has to offer, like the technology and all of the quality, without it actually breaking. A friend of mine on Facebook recently had the turbo coolant line fail on his Mercedes-Benz S-Class at 41,000 miles, and the quoted repair bill was $4 grand. 41,000 miles and already needs a $4,000 repair bill. You might argue that such is the price of owning an expensive and complicated piece of technology, to which I would respond, no. It isn't. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's also the prime reason that I would take something like the Lexus LS over the German competition if I had any plans to keep it long term, and I wasn't leasing it because I can't actually afford it in real life, all of you people who lease cars. I'm just kidding, sort of. I don't need or care about badge pedigree, but I'll gladly take the LS500's stunning exterior and exquisite interior detailing and quality. I don't need a 10,000 horsepower German V8 that can't crack 50,000 miles without shitting the bed, but I'll gladly take the LS500's buttery smooth 442 pound-feet of torque that'll easily go 200,000 miles without braking. And most of all, I don't need useless crap like gesture control or screens on every surface that are utterly impossible to keep clean, but I'll gladly take the LS500's 23-speaker Mark Levinson audio system, upon which I can play my Yanni CDs at full volume.
Actually, it's the other way around.
I think the LS500 makes sense as a flagship because it gives you almost everything you could ever want in a luxury flagship, and it promises that it'll always work for you. It removes any sense of worry or apprehension from the ownership experience, especially considering sort of the price level that this vehicle plays in. And at the end of the day, isn't that kind of the most luxurious thing that it can do? Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you really enjoyed it. I always try to kind of maintain a sort of practical air when I'm making these videos about sort of ultra expensive vehicles, and I hope that comes across. Obviously, if I was a billionaire and money didn't matter, I probably wouldn't consider the Lexus LS500. But if you're a semi-normal person or sort of like upper class, lower upper class, I don't know if that's a thing, you might want something like this. Kind of spoil yourself a little bit. And to me, as a used car bargain, this is far and away the only luxury flagship that I would choose. Maybe that's just me being too practical. Let me know in the comments what you would choose. Does this have enough to sway your decision away from the Germans? Or are you just sort of hopelessly loyal to that brand image? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. As always, ride safe and drive safe, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace. And let's start with the car coming by. Going awfully fast for the park, just saying. Wait till they're out of shot. The seats in the door cards look, God, your truck sucks. Good Lord, someone on a two-stroke dirt bike.